same way as I'm not sympathetic to the Ruzaks. You know what I mean? I was sympathetic. You don't know the full story, you see, and that's why I say to you, you should probably call me or give me your number and I'll call you, because there's a real long story to it. So I'll try and give you as short as I can on here. My background's medical sciences. In actual fact, I actually should be running a hospital now. Not so much as a surgeon, but I probably would have worked.
I'm going to do this podcast in 2 or 3 parts, and I'm also going to do other chapters involving other people, not just BAM and not just AD. BAM was a very, put it this way, she's very articulate. She knew how to string a sentence together. She knew how to reel you in. She was very engaging, but she was a fantasist. I don't believe for a second that she had a background in medical sciences, and I don't believe she had any qualifications in medical sciences. But she was very good at trying to convince you. And before I get on with the rest of this podcast, I just want to say there were never any phone calls between me and BAM. Despite her asking me to call her on numerous occasions, I never gave her my number. And I never called her. So there were no recorded phone calls between me and BAM. I just want to get that out of the way. Second thing is that she recorded, and this was her idea to do the voicemails, not mine. She recorded her voicemails on her phone and then uploaded the voicemails to me through email, and that's how I would get the voicemails. I recorded my voicemails to her online and uploaded them to my email so she would get them. So our communication was basically voicemails by email and written emails. But I think because she claimed to have eyesight issues, she preferred doing voicemails, and I preferred that. I much preferred doing voicemails. So I just want to get that out the way before I get on to AD and the other stuff I'm going to talk about in this podcast. Hello everyone, I decided to do this podcast today because I don't often do this, but I will every now and then go to Rumble and check AD's profile. I'll check his Rumble channel, and I do it very, very rarely. And I decided to do that. I went to his Rumble profile. I wanted to see if he had anything to say about this case with Frankie. And lo and behold, there were 2 videos. Now, I was of the understanding that because of Frankie's case, that he was no longer allowed to speak about the Watts case in any capacity. Obviously, I'm wrong, or maybe I'm right. I don't know. It's something that he will never, ever let go of, I don't think. He will try and talk about it no matter where he is, no matter what time it is, no matter, how many months pass. I think he is obsessed with the case and obsessed with the idea of his own importance in the case, which is zero. He is of zero importance in the case. And after watching the videos, I decided I would do this podcast because I think that he is exceptionally, put it this way, I think both AD and BAM are and were delusional people, and they had grandiose delusions of their own self-image, self-importance, intelligence. So he's basically saying, and I've heard him say this before, this is nothing new, that because he discovered the shadows, which he didn't discover them, he didn't discover them at all. But he's saying that because he discovered the shadows under the truck of Bella and Cece, that because of that, D.A. Rourke sent his team to Wisconsin. I mean, that is as delusional as it gets. He thinks because he allegedly, because he thinks he found these shadows, which he never found, they were reported on different sites. And as far as I'm concerned, they make absolutely no difference to the case because the case has the same outcome. He's claiming that because he found these shadows. He's giving himself credit that he found these shadows. That is the reason why he sent D.A. Rourke, sent his team to Wisconsin. Now, that is a grandiose delusion. He has a very, very inflated and false sense of his own importance. And Bam was very, very much the same. So what I see in AD and Bam are similar characteristics in terms of the fantasist and the delusions that they have, although I don't think their delusions are complete. I think part of their delusion is manipulation, arrogance, and denial. So I don't think their delusion is 100% complete. But I think also the delusion is the fact that they can convince people. You know, Bam thought she can convince me that she had a background in medical sciences, and she thought she could convince people that she had all these qualifications, which she didn't. She would sit in her bedroom talking about how people were jealous of her and how people envied her, when in reality, the house that she was living in was crumbling around her. In AD, you have a failed businessman with no qualifications, someone who's never worked in LE, someone who's not a detective, pretending and thinking that he can convince people that he solved something that's already was wrapped up before he even put his big foot in it. And there's a lot of similarities. You know, Bam was telling me that it was her and her friend Cindy who'd found the shadows. Not that I care about shadows, and I don't think they make any difference to this case at all, because the outcome was ultimately the same. You know, I couldn't care less about the shadows, but Bam was telling me that her and her friend Cindy had recreated a scene at her home, found shadows, contacted the FBI, and the FBI had apparently taken Bam's account seriously, which is nonsense.
The FBI got in touch with us right away. It wasn't like the FBI, it was the Director General. And, you know, it was basically, long story short, they contacted my doctor, so that told you that she digested everything. So we were able to give this to the FBI and whatnot. You know, we were asked to hold our findings, you know, be discreet. And we assured that we would, but they said, what do you want? And we basically said, you know, we need you to say that the mother didn't do it, because a lot of people are going to blame her. And this is kind of what happened. The FBI did put out a statement. I think it was the CBI put out a statement saying that she hadn't done it. Now, we never got any thanks or any acknowledgement from that. They knew that we'd done it. They knew. But we never got any thanks. We didn't want thanks, don't get me wrong. We didn't want acknowledgement either, but keep that in mind for further on. When AD started all his antics, and he got worse and worse and worse. I told you he took credit for what Cindy and I did, you know, more or less presenting to his
She actually expects me to believe that the FBI contacted her doctor. The FBI in America contacted her doctor. I mean, these are grand delusions, and I'll explain more in the second part of this podcast, which I have no schedule to put these podcasts out, but I'm doing episodes on delusions of grandeur. And that certainly is a great, grandiose delusion, that the FBI cares or would even bother to call the doctor of some woman in the UK just because she thinks, well, her story was she contacted the FBI to vindicate Shanann. And I also noticed that the same delusions and sayings that she had were the same as AD, and vice versa. It became like she started to take credit for things that AD was taking credit for. So she basically said that she did, she recreated the Watts scene, did a home experiment with her friend Cindy. Cindy found shadows under the truck, and that she contacted the FBI, and said that, because she was trying to vindicate Shanann, saying that based on her experiment, Shanann couldn't have done it because Chris Watts was saying that Shanann had done it. And that she claimed the FBI told her and her friend Cindy to hold her findings. I mean, the idea that she thinks that she could be of any value or importance to the FBI in America is really a grandiose delusion beyond reality. I mean, it just goes. It's so humongously delusional. To the point it's actually quite laughable. And, AD says a similar thing. He's trying to make out that he vindicated Shanann because he found the shadows of the girls under the truck, and that he was saying that DA Rourke had to change his a previous statement. He actually thinks, or I don't even know if he actually believes that, but he has a fantasy, and these people are fantasists. Both Bam and AD are fantasists. They have a fantasy that they are more important and valuable to society than they really, really are. One is a failed businessman who's never achieved anything in his life. I have nothing against AD. He's always been pleasant to me, but that's the truth. And the other one was sitting there saying how she was getting offered contracts with Hugh Hefner, how she dated rock stars, how she wore Chanel, how her house was worth 1 million, how people were supposedly jealous and envious of her, when she was actually living in a house that was in disrepair and it was crumbling. These were two very delusional people, and I will go more into this in the second episode, but there's no time frame where I'm going to put the second episode out. This is just the start of the series, so to speak, or the start of the episodes, and I'm going to put them out in my own time.